All right, welcome to the explainer. So if you're building with AI agents, you already know the deal. Having the right tools hooked directly into your workflow is, well, it's make or break for productivity. Today, we're unpacking a genuinely clever open source project called the OpenCode-power-pack. We're going to look at exactly how this tool bridges a massive gap, taking some of the most sophisticated multi-agent workflows originally designed for Claude Code and bringing them seamlessly into the OpenCode environment.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today's deep dive. First up, we'll look at the Claude to OpenCode gap. Then, we'll break down the translation layer itself. After that, we'll run through the 11 ported skills, take a peek at the anatomy of a translated skill under the hood, and finally, go over the setup and installation.
So, Part 1. The Claude to OpenCode gap.
To really get why this power pack is such a game changer, we have to look at the compatibility roadblock developers were hitting. Think about Anthropic's official plugins for Claude Code. They're incredibly powerful, right? But their multi-agent coordination logic is sprawled out. It's stored across specific commands and agents directories. But OpenCode doesn't work that way. It expects native skills to be packaged up neatly in a single file SKILL.md format. So the headache here is you can't just copy-paste Anthropic's folders into OpenCode. It literally just breaks. And that creates this really frustrating tool lock-in, where these amazing multi-agent methodologies are essentially trapped inside just one ecosystem.
Which leaves us staring at a pretty critical question. If OpenCode is your daily driver, how do we actually bring these massive workflows over? How do we cross that technical barrier without losing all the sophisticated logic baked into those original plugins?
That brings us to Part 2, the translation layer explained.
Enter the solution, built by developer Wayner Barrios. It acts as the ultimate translator. But before we look at how the translation happens, let's just clarify what OpenCode is actually looking for. It relies entirely on the SKILL.md format. It's a single file structure with YAML front matter at the top for, metadata, followed by standard markdown instructions. Basically, it's an easy-to-read, contained document designed to teach an AI agent how to complete specialized, repeatable tasks.
So, to make this compatible, the Power Pack operates like a conceptual pipeline. Step 1, it reaches into Claude Code's distributed commands and agents directories and extracts that complex multi-agent logic. Step 2, it collapses all of that sprawling coordination into one highly structured SKILL.md definition. And Step 3, because the format is finally correct, OpenCode can just pick it up and execute it natively. It's a super elegant fix to a structural problem.
There's this fantastic line from the article analyzing this project, and I absolutely love it. It says, "The methodology survives the platform jump." And honestly, that is the absolutely crucial takeaway here. This isn't just a copy-paste text dump. It meticulously preserves the actual behavior. Whether you're doing parallel PR reviews or some multi-stage feature generation, that sophisticated multi-agent logic isn't lost in translation. OpenCode runs the exact same methodology.
Moving on to Part 3. Let's look at the goods, the 11 ported skills.
Let's shift focus to the actual payload here, because the sheer breadth of capabilities is wild. There's a dense arsenal of 11 skills, and we're highlighting 5 of the heavy hitters. Check out the categories. You've got robust review muscles with code review and security review. You have feature dev for end-to-end development. There's even front-end design for pumping out production-grade UIs, and an MCP builder to help author your own MCP servers. It is a completely loaded toolkit.
And this brilliantly illustrates the depth we're talking about. Take the feature dev workflow. It's not just indiscriminately spitting out code, it's following a rigorous 7-phase methodology. It kicks off with discovery and exploration, pauses to ask clarifying questions, drafts an explicit architecture blueprint, handles the implementation, and wraps up with a review and summary. Because this is all collapsed into OpenCode, you trigger this entire guided journey with just one /command.
The ported security review skill is just as impressive. The rigor here is serious. It uses OWASP bucketed vulnerability detection. It's got a 3-stage false positive filtering system, which is great, so you aren't just drowning in noise. But the coolest part? It requires a concrete attack proof of concept for every single finding it reports. This port is highly directive, which compensates beautifully, even if you happen to be running smaller, local models in OpenCode. Now, a lot of folks in the community already use the Abra/Superpowers plugin, so you're probably wondering, do I really need both? Yes, absolutely. They actually complement each other perfectly. Think of it this way.
The OpenCode-power-pack gives you domain-specific muscle, the actual coding, architecture blueprints, and security reviews. On the flip side, Abra/Superpowers handles the meta workflow stuff, brainstorming, test-driven development, executing plans. You put them together, and you've got a powerhouse ecosystem.
All right, part 4, Anatomy of a Translated Skill.
For those of you who like to tinker under the hood, let's look at how this is actually organized. The architecture runs on what the docs call two surfaces, one source of truth. Your primary SKILL.md file feeds directly into OpenCode's native skill tool, which lets agents load it up programmatically. But simultaneously, there's a generated markdown file sitting in a commands directory that feeds your manual/command palette. So you get both programmatic tool discovery and manual/command invocation totally conflict-free.
So, where are all these skills actually coming from? Well, they fall into 3 buckets. First, the translated skills. These are the complex ones, like feature dev, that had to be completely rewritten from multiple directories. Then you have copied skills, which are direct one-to-one ports of standalone skills Anthropic already had, like front-end design. And finally, adapted skills, which just needed minor tweaks to play nice with OpenCode's naming conventions. And of course, full credit goes to Anthropic's original open source repos as the upstream source for all of this.
Let's wrap things up with part 5, setup and installation.
Time to get practical. The pitch for installing this on your own machine is basically music to a developer's ears. One config line, one plugin. It is shockingly lightweight. You can install it straight from the GitHub repo, or, if you're the type who prefers offline usage or wants to hack on the code yourself, just do a local git clone.
In practice, it's just 3 quick steps. First, edit your OpenCode JSON config file and just drop the plugin URL into the plugins array. Second, fire off a quick terminal command to symlink the / commands from the repo right into your local OpenCode folder. And third, restart OpenCode. That's it. Since OpenCode has a bundled bun environment, it silently handles the npm install in the background. 0 friction.
And the second you restart, the magic number is 11. 11 heavy-hitting / commands like /code review, /security review, and /feature dev are instantly unlocked in your command palette and ready to tear into your codebase.
This whole project is proof that we don't have to stay locked inside isolated tool chains. Which brings me to a final thought to leave you with. As AI agents become the standard across all these different platforms, will single-file, structured definitions like SKILL.md become the universal Rosetta Stone for open-source developer workflows? Looking at how well the OpenCode-power-pack pulled this off, I'd say it's highly likely. Definitely give it a spin. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and happy coding!